There we go. Let's get rid of that. Okay, right. Welcome everybody. Thank you, James, for giving me this this opportunity to show this little tool that I've been building over the last few months, on and off, when time is allowed, as Daniel just said, driven primarily by lockdown and not wanting to just spend all hours just doing work LabVIEW, but a bit of recreational LabVIEW as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about bookmarks. Hopefully you're all familiar with bookmarks, and it'll be the easiest slide introduction possible. Oh, there we go. There we go. So what are bookmarks? Well, let's start with free text labels. So hopefully we all comment our LabVIEW block diagrams. We don't, I hear often the code documents itself. Hopefully we don't believe that, and that we know that we still need to add some comments, especially when we've got complex logic, maybe something that's not immediately obvious what's going on. Hopefully we all add free text labels to our block diagrams. Of course, free text labels can be anchored to block diagram objects themselves, so that if we move the associated block diagram objects, the label kind of shows that it's still related to that object by the use of this little arrow that we can see there on the right. And they can also contain URLs as well. And that's something that surprises a lot of people. I find that super useful if I've done maybe some device programming, or there's something where a device requires a special or a particular digital protocol to be used with it. Doing things like including a URL for the datasheet can be extremely useful. So yeah, absolutely support the use of URLs in free text labels. And they can contain bookmarks. So, that's a bit blurry, apologies for that. But they can contain bookmarks. And this is a bookmark example. Specifically, a bookmark is a component of that free text label, a series of characters within that free text label that starts with the hash character and ends at the next white space. And we can see that when we've entered a bookmark into that free text label, LabVIEW has recognized, yep, there's a bookmark there, and it's bolded the characters that make up that bookmark. Free text labels can contain several bookmarks. So anywhere where LabVIEW sees a space followed by a hashtag, everything after that hashtag, and including the hashtag, becomes a bookmark up until the next white space. Okay, so, and we can have multiple bookmarks in there. So why would we want to do that? We're already adding comments, hopefully. Well, let's have a look. And as I just said, free text labels can contain multiple bookmarks. So in this video, I'm just going to show the creation of a free text label, and I'm going to enter a bookmark here. So I've got a hashtag, and we can see that LabVIEW has indicated which part of it is the bookmark. If I jump back a little second, we can see that we can go to the View menu and launch something called the Bookmark Manager. The Bookmark Manager is going to show all of the bookmarks contained within our open active LabVIEW project. Okay, so we can have multiple bookmarks in a single free text label, and we could have multiple free text labels scattered through our LabVIEW project in different VIs. And the Bookmark Manager makes it very easy to look at the bookmarks that are being used. Not only that, but if I want to actually find one of them, I can double click on the bookmark of interest in the Bookmark Manager, and it will take me to that part. So if we do that again, it's going to take me, and we can change the context to the main app instance or the current project. But if I double click on it, it takes me to that particular bookmark. So these can be really useful for indicating where there's some code perhaps that needs to be completed if you're mid-development and you want to leave a little reminder to yourself, hey, there's some code here. Or if you're working as part, there's some code here that needs to be finished. Or if you're working as part of a team, maybe hopefully doing code reviews and that kind of thing, you can leave comments to other developers saying, hey, you might want to look at this again. I think it can be improved or optimized. So you can leave notes for each other, highlight potential bugs, things that need further attention. So they can be really useful, just like an index in a book. You can use them for actually jumping to specific parts of your LabVIEW project in order to find certain pieces of code. Now, that's great. Hopefully you're already using them. If not, hopefully you see some value in what you've just seen. And when I started using them, I started to have a few questions about bookmarks and a few things that I felt like bookmarks were missing a little bit, such as what happens if I have a group of favorite bookmarks that I'm using all the time? How can I put those down on my LabVIEW block diagram nice and quickly? Or what happens if I want to use a previously used bookmark? What happens if we're a super team of crack LabVIEW developers, and I've got a list of approved bookmarks, to try and cut down on the possible variations that might be introduced by different members of the team, kind of spelling words differently or using different cases. So, for example, leaving a note to do, I see variations on it's a 4-character word, and I see so many variations. Is it uppercase T, lowercase O, uppercase D? Does it have a hyphen in the middle? Is it all uppercase? Is it all lowercase? So how about if we had a defined list of approved bookmarks so that we remove some of that variation? And what happens if I want to add a bookmark to multiple VIs? So, for example, if I'm using an issue tracking system and I want to add a bookmark with the issue reference to several VIs that are potentially affected by an issue that's been raised, how can I add them to several VIs as efficiently as possible? I don't necessarily want to go and open every individual VI's block diagram and add a free text label to it. So I had these questions. I saw that they were useful. Bookmarks were super useful, but I had some questions about them and how they could be improved. So I kind of took it upon myself to actually go ahead and create what I call the Bookmark Project Provider. It's a LabVIEW project provider that effectively provides an extension to the LabVIEW project window related to bookmarks. So hopefully these videos work nicely and we can show that, but I've also got LabVIEW running in a VM should we need to dive in. So the first use case is, well, I don't necessarily want to open the block diagram to add a bookmark. That's kind of it's time consuming. It's a context switch. If there's an excuse for me to not do it, I'm probably not going to do it. So if it's easier to add a bookmark from the project window, then great. That's kind of the way I work. If I can avoid changing context and moving into different windows. So the Bookmark Project Provider allows me to create a bookmark from the project window directly. I simply right-click on the VI that I'm interested in and go down to Add Bookmark to this VI, and this little Add Bookmark dialog box pops up. I'm going to pause the video for a second and just highlight a few things. So it's got a window here, new bookmark, where I can immediately start typing the text that I want to appear in my free text label that's going to be added to the block diagram. You'll also see that there's a number of buttons with predefined bookmarks already suggested here. So I'll let that run again. So I'm going to start typing, and we can just start typing directly into that box, or we can click one of the predefined. And when we click the predefined, if I just jump back a second, actually the video just repeated anyway. Let's just let that carry on. So if I add one of the predefined, or I actually type a bookmark, you'll actually see that the tool recognizes what we've just done, and it's highlighted the actual bookmark itself within the free text label characters. So it's highlighted to us, that's the bookmark part of this. Whether I type it or whether I click one of the free text, one of the predefined buttons. If I now go to the block diagram, we can see my newly created free text label on the block diagram with the bookmark that we just added. Okay, so that's kind of the first use case, is just being able to add that bookmark to an existing VI directly from the project without having to open the VI, without having to open its block diagram. Second use case is, well, yep, that's great, but I actually want to do it to multiple VIs. Well, it's simple. We just select one or more VIs, and the right-click menu says add bookmarks to these VIs. Same dialog appears, same process again. We just start typing, or we add one of the predefined bookmarks, and when we select create, we can see it's added it to both. So we've added the bookmark to 2 VIs or to multiple VIs, however many we want to add the bookmark to. So that's kind of the typical use case of this tool. Now you notice that the free text label is different to the default in that the background color is this kind of turquoise color rather than the yellow color of a standard comment. Well, one of the things that we can do is we can customize this tool a little bit. So if we right click, add bookmarks to this VI, and then go to the preferences button at the bottom, what that's going to do is it's going to give us there we go. Let's pause that. So this is going to allow us to configure a few things about the tool. The first thing that it's going to allow us to configure are the predefined bookmarks allocated to the 4 buttons on the tool itself. So there we've got to do, ignore, comment, and note, but we can customize those to be 4 of our own choice. We can also customize the default bookmark background color and the default bookmark text color. So if we have a particular organization color scheme, for example, we can do that, and we can customize that background color. There's a couple of things also, a couple of check boxes you'll see on the right hand side. I'm going to talk a little bit more about these in a second, but the top one, enable bookmark suggester and list existing bookmarks in current project or VI. We're going to see those in a second, but the first thing to kind of highlight is we can customize what those buttons contain, the predefined bookmarks, and we can change the appearance of the free text label when it appears, when we've actually created it. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and change one of these now. So we're going to change that to demo and save it, and you can see our predefined buttons, one of them has now changed, so we can customize that, however, and those preferences are persisted. So once we've configured this tool to have our 4 favorite predefined bookmarks, then we can just have that saved. So the final thing that we saw was that tick box, kind of cryptic tick box that talked about bookmark suggester and whether to include existing VIs. So if we've got that tick box enabled, as soon as I start typing and I hit the hashtag, an additional window pops up. It's a little bit like the quick drop window. And what that shows me is all of the existing bookmarks in the current project that I'm working on, or the current VI that I'm working on, depending on the context in which this tool was loaded. So if I've launched it from a project, then I'll see all of the existing bookmarks in all of the VIs that are in that project. Okay, so that allows me, that kind of solves the problem that I questioned earlier. How can I reuse existing bookmarks that I'm already using? The other thing that is included in this content is my favorite bookmarks. So this tool allows us to populate a text file with a list of preferred, approved, however you want to term it, but a list of bookmarks that we've already approved, and I want them to appear in the list. So this helps us around the consistency, things like the to-do and whether the characters are uppercase, lowercase, etc. So this allows us to enforce consistency within a team. So that list of available bookmarks includes already used bookmarks in the project and a list of approved bookmarks that can be specified by a team that are using this tool. Okay, and they're just specified in a text file. So, and that is invoked just by hitting the hash character. So if I let this run to completion, I can then either start typing. If I start typing, that would actually filter out certain items. So for example, if my next character after the hash was B, it would filter out everything. So I can either immediately start typing, or I can use the cursors to move up or down and select the item of interest and either double click it or hit enter in order to add that bookmark text to this dialog. And then I can just click create bookmark in order to add it to the block diagram. Okay, so that's using it from the project window. But as we started to kind of use this tool and play around with it, kind of realized, yeah, but there's other scenarios here where we need to create bookmarks. So another scenario where we might need to create bookmarks is if I'm already adding or if I've already added a bookmark and I want to edit it. So using the right click menu, what I can do is simply click on any free text label and right click on any free text label, and we'll have this new menu item, edit bookmark, which will invoke the edit bookmark dialog that we've seen already. The current content of the free text label is already added, and then we can edit it as we see fit, either just by clicking the predefined, typing directly into it, deleting what's already there or changing it, and then hit create bookmark to make the change fix. So in this case, let's add some text. Let's hit create bookmark. Now you can see our bookmark's been updated to contain the new text. And we can copy and paste directly into that new bookmark dialog window as well, if we've got a large body of text that we want to append to an existing bookmark. So right-clicking on a free text label is one way of invoking the tool. Using it directly from the project window is another way. And then the final way is to use quick drop. So installing this tool also installs a quick drop shortcut. The code to invoke it, Control space followed by Control M. And in this case, we can simply hit Control space, Control M, and that will invoke the new bookmark dialog. And we can simply start typing or click on one of our predefined buttons or type a hash and use a pre-used bookmark, and the free text label will be created on the block diagram directly for us. Now, one of the questions I always get asked is, where does it put the bookmark, especially if you're creating it from the project window where you can't see the block diagram? So it depends. It depends on how the tool is invoked. If you are doing it on the LabVIEW block diagram using the quick drop shortcut, then it will place it wherever the quick drop shortcut was invoked, wherever the cursor was at the time when you hit Control space Control M. If you're obviously editing an existing bookmark, then it will just edit the existing bookmark. It won't change its location. And if it's from the LabVIEW project, from the LabVIEW project window, then it will look at the existing code that is on the block diagram, and it will find the top leftmost item and place it slightly above that top leftmost item. So I had to figure out, okay, where are we actually going to put it? That seemed as good a suggestion as any at the time. So 3 different ways of invoking it from the project, by right-clicking on a free text label or by hitting Control space Control M. So in terms of how do I create my list of preferred bookmarks? How do I configure this tool, etc.? Well, if you install the tool, you simply go to Help, and there's an item in here, Bookmark Project Provider User Guide. Clicking on that launches what I hope is a fairly comprehensive document that explains how to use the tool, how to configure it, but more importantly, it tells you where you need to edit a text a text file that has already been created for you. It just needs editing to include your favorite bookmarks. So if you look at the help, that'll tell you what to do. And there's also a list of videos that are available on YouTube to show you how to use the tool. There's also a link to the GitHub page for this tool, which the same help documentation is also hosted on the GitHub page as well. So what's next for this tool? So I should say this tool is now on the LabVIEW Tools Network. All code is unlocked. It is free. It's on the LabVIEW Tools Network. What is next? I'd like to replace the string control on the front panel with a queue control. There's a few features that I would like to add that would just be made a little bit more straightforward by using a queue control in terms of maybe not straightforward, but just in terms of compartmentalizing the code, just making the code a little bit more modular. I think using a queue control for that would be beneficial. I'd also, and I've got something running now where I'd actually like to move towards a plugin architecture where not only do you choose where your predefined bookmarks come from, the current example is you put your bookmarks in a text file and those are then added to the list of available bookmarks. But I'd also like you to be able to plug in your own extensions for this tool to define where those bookmarks actually originate. So for example, maybe JIRA tickets or GitHub issue numbers being provided as suggested bookmarks. I'd also like to enhance the bookmark manager to be able to do things such as find and replace. So rather than just double clicking and finding a bookmark based on the bookmark manager, I'd like to be able to right click on something in bookmark manager and replace it by invoking the edit bookmark dialog and then allowing me to actually go and replace it. Maybe even show derivatives such as the to do, where somebody else has put to do in different case rather than the approved version. So I've had lots of suggestions from various users, and obviously that's the things that make the tool better, so keep them coming. Next release is actually submitted now to LabVIEW Tools Network and includes fixes for a LabVIEW right-click menu bug. So you might occasionally see when you right-click on one of the free text labels, you edit it, you'll see that it actually changes content, and then it's almost as if somebody's hit the undo button. And it changes back to what it was. It doesn't happen every time. It happens fairly sporadically, and for no obvious reason. Turns out there's actually a bug in LabVIEW that you can find details of here, the LabVIEW shortcut menu plugin bug, and there's a fix for it now, which involves replacing a VI. So if you've already got this tool and you've seen that behavior and you think, this is annoying, Chris's bookmark tool is terrible, if you follow this link, I'll paste it in the chat as well. But basically you replace one VI in LabVIEW and that will fix everything for you. The next version of bookmark on the tools menu, on the tools network will include that fix by default. So that will be in the next release. Quick thanks to a few people that have given me ideas, comments, sarcastic feedback. So Darren Mather and Greg Payne, I'd like to single those two out for their constant support and not at all sarcastic comments. But also everyone else at the ALA for their ideas, feedback and sarcastic bug reports. Anybody got any questions? Anybody using it? That'd be an interesting one. Let me go back.
Yes, Chris. The only thing that normally pulls me back from using the bookmark manager, and maybe you can help me with this, is that if you have maybe big projects or this kind of things, it's slow. the scan of all the VIs. Maybe your tool solve this. I am not sure. I am asking. No?
So my tool's meant to kind of
Complement.
Complement, yeah, that's the word. So when I basically I get a list of all of the bookmarks, and then it's cached. Obviously, if we then add a bookmark that wasn't already in the list of approved bookmarks or wasn't already being used in the project, then I append that one to the list. But I'm not rescanning the project to see what is in there. The bookmark manager itself, you're absolutely right. The bigger it gets, the slower it gets.
It's not scalable. That is like my sensation.
Yeah, so what I actually see when I talked about, features, when I said enhanced bookmark manager, find and replace, show derivatives, etc. One thing that's possible is the bookmark manager itself is all open code, but it can be replaced by your own bookmark manager. So one thing I would like to do is to find time to basically replace the existing bookmark manager with additional functions such as find and replace, but also to see, okay, well, is there some ways? I know it does caching internally anyway, but is there some way to help with the performance, perhaps?
I think that would be like, from my perspective, for me as a user of it, that would be like for me, it's like a red line. So if that red line is like fixed, it's like, it would be like very useful, no?
Yeah.
But well, it's okay. At least I just wanted to ask you that, because maybe I am a weird guy and I don't know how to maybe there's a way better of doing it, because the only way how I've seen it is like, okay, in a small context is okay, but if you are like in a bigger context of projects, and this is like a way of working, so isn't like in your workflow. So it's
absolutely.
It's not a game. It's like an important decision, let's say, no?
Yep. Oh, totally.
Oh.
I think if the bookmark manager actually provided additional, because right now all that it does is it shows you a list of bookmarks that you can sort or filter somewhat, but and then it can take you to that bookmark. If it could actually provide more information, then increasing its value almost could offset perhaps the performance somewhat. But at the minute, you're waiting for a list to be populated, especially on first launch, and then all you're effectively doing is viewing a list and being able to be taken to it. Perhaps if we could build upon that functionality to say things like, yeah, I'd like to be able to find or filter and search for particular bookmarks and replace them with something else and do it from that central location, that would be something that I think maybe would offset the performance overhead. Would be, well, yeah, but that's a benefit. If I've got 10 instances where somebody put to do with a hyphen in the middle and I want to replace it with my approved version, then yeah, that's worth the performance hit, because I can do everything from a single location. Likewise, I did actually demo at NI Week a couple of years ago a version of Bookmark Manager that showed where JIRA tickets or where JIRA issue tags had been used in bookmarks. So it was a custom bookmark manager that I demoed that would only show bookmarks that contain JIRA tags, and it would show the URL. So you could click on the bookmark that contained the JIRA ticket, and it would open that issue in your default web browser straight away. So again, if we can add some features to the bookmark manager, then I think it could find more value than it currently offers. Let me put it like that. And that's the reason for the plugin architecture. So I know not everybody, this is certainly not useful to everybody, but for myself, I'd like to be able to drop down JIRA tags into a LabVIEW VI. If I've got a ticket that's allocated to me and I know that there's several VIs that need to be updated as part of this ticket, I'd like to be able to drop down the actual JIRA ticket number or the URL for that JIRA ticket, drop them down into multiple VIs. Maybe Bookmark Manager could show me the status of those JIRA tickets as well. There's an API. So that's the reason for the plugin architecture, is to say, okay, to people, just go ahead and take the tool as far as you want, really.
And another question, Chris, You know, for example, when you are scanning or querying those bookmarks that already are in the project, for example,
Yep.
Do you open the reference of all of them, or are they in memory when you're doing that? They should be loaded in memory. That is my question. Because this is another performance thing, no? So, you know, for example, when you're using like the palette, the LabVIEW, the function palette, for example, all of those VIs that are there, they are not in memory. So you have there like the documentation, and you have like a lot of information in order like to reuse faster. Okay.
Yep.
So it would be like super cool. No, this is like the dream of the bookmark. No, it's like I can scan all the bookmarks super fast, and I don't have all the VIs in memory.
Yeah. So LabVIEW actually provides a method. So I don't. So with the project version, when you right click and when you type a hash, it shows you all of the bookmarks that are in the project. That's actually a method of the LabVIEW application that actually will list all of the bookmarks without me having to open references to the VIs in the project. If you do the same thing from an open VI, it'll only show bookmarks that are in the current in the VI. If there's no active project, it will only show references to the VI that's currently open. So I'm not opening any references to any VIs or anything like that.
One question: when you, for example, in the demo that you did, for example, if you open the project, okay, and you select those two VIs and you want to see the bookmarks that are there, have you opened, for example, the VI hierarchy to see if they are there?
No, I use the LabVIEW method. LabVIEW gives me a list of bookmarks.
No, but I mean, if you have checked that, because if they are there, that means they are in memory. But if they are not there, that means they are not in memory. And of course, it's like super cool, no, let's say. I don't know if you get my point, no? So imagine you are in the project and you have selected those two VIs and you want to query their bookmarks, okay? And you do it. And then the next thing you do, you go to VI hierarchy, you go edit VI hierarchy. And the question is if those VIs appear there.
So I don't query their bookmarks. So let me go back to that example because it might be easier to actually do. Right. So I think this is the example that you're talking about where I select two VIs. So I've got two VIs here, and let's have a look.
Okay, so you insert, but you don't query, no?
I insert, but I don't query. However, if I was to type a hash here, then the little suggester window pops up. That suggester window will show me all of the bookmarks in all of the VIs in that project. Okay.
There you query, no?
But I'm not doing it on a VI by VI basis. I'm using a method that LabVIEW provides for me, which returns an array of clusters of which one element of the cluster is bookmarked. Okay. So LabVIEW provides a method directly at the application level.
Yes, that is my super question. Maybe you never checked that out, but I think it's important because if you're able like to manage those bookmarks, also query like inserting and everything, no, and those VIs are not in memory, that will make it like more scalable. Let's say like that.
I seem to remember when they launched the bookmark manager, they made a point of saying that the VIs don't have to be loaded. The bookmark manager can scan them directly from the files. And then it provides an API, which is what Chris is calling to.
Yeah.
So they are not loaded in memory. They are scanning those files, no?
That's based on a 4 or 5 year old memory, but I'm sure that was a point they made because of the scalability issues. Obviously, they still exist if you've still got a lot of files, but
yes, of course, but it's different, no?
Also potentially confused by the fact that this whole dialogue is invoked by right-clicking and interacting with the project provider, at which point there is a VI reference involved.
Okay, so maybe they will be in memory, right? Okay, understood. Thank you very much, Chris.
Okay, that's an interesting one actually, as to what form that takes with the project provider. But there is certainly an open reference. But again, it's a project item reference. I'm interacting with the project. Obviously, when there's then an open reference, when I then go and say, okay, I'm going to script the creation of a new free text label, then obviously there's a VI open at that point.
Yes, it's something like to investigate, because in the project API, in the LabVIEW project API, there is a method there that can give you the VI reference without loading it into memory or something strange, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it, but yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because obviously, if you're using source code control, then that becomes a consideration as well. Because obviously, there's potentially an issue where a file on disk has changed, but the VI is currently in memory, and then you've potentially got a mismatch between the two, and LabVIEW will actually show it as a conflict. So that's the method that I'm actually using, so that you don't see that conflict where the disk version has changed versus the version in the project. So yeah. So anyway, hopefully can get extended to have some new features such as plugins, etc. It's on the Tools Network if you want to have a little play around with it. Yeah. Thanks for your time. Anybody who's got any ideas, feedback, or anything else that they want to add to it, give me a shout.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. I'm going to stop recording there then.